All right, guys. We are almost going to treat this like a new year, pre-new year boot camp. So let's see. I'm going to pull up what's called a balance wheel. This is like psychology 101 here. The first thing that comes up in my search on Safari is UCI Center for Student Wellness PDF. I searched balance wheel PDF, and then it says assessing your life balance. So it has all these areas. There are different versions of these, but I'll post the link to this. The website is called studentwellness.uci.edu, University of California, Irvine. That's what UCI stands for. It's my alma mater. I have a lot of alma maters. So let's see. Assessing your life balance. A wheel runs most smoothly when well balanced. Instructions. Read each statement and fill in the corresponding pie-shaped section of the wheel to the degree you are achieving this. For example, question 1 is, I eat a balanced nutritional diet. If you feel you are doing this 100% of the time, color in all of section 1. If you feel you do this 60% of the time, color 60% of the section. And repeat it for all 36 sections. There's 36 freaking sections. And so basically, there are 36 questions here in the categories of physical, and it has these sections with the statements. So the sections are physical, financial, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual. So we'll be going over all of these, and then the third page has your plan. We're not going to go over all these right now. You can skip around, you can do it in order. I'm going to start with financial, so that's number 7 through 12. Physical physical, you color in orange, 1 through 6. Financial, you color in yellow, 7 through 12. Intellectual, you color in purple, 13 through 18. Emotional, you color in red, 19 through 24. Social, you color in green, 25 through 30. Then the last of them, spiritual, you color in blue, 31 to 36. Now, if you don't have time to do this, one thing I would say is you could put a dot. So that's how I learned how to do these, is put a dot, and you know, so for number 1, if you don't want to color in the whole section, number 1, for example, for physical would be color in orange for number 1. I eat a balanced nutritional diet. So it gives you options, like basically on this wheel, to color it in all the way up to the top of the circumference of the circle, which is that like outer edge of the circle. Halfway up is 50%. All the way up is 100%. And if you don't want to color it, what you can do is just put like a dot, and then for number 2, put a dot kind of in the range that you feel is the percentage that you're doing that. And then what you can do is connect all the dots, and it kind of gives you this weird, like, jagged shape all the way around for all the 36 numbers. Instead of coloring it in up to the point, you can basically, see how far away from the outside of this 100% you are for each of those. I want to start with financial because I think that's what captures people's attention the most, and that's what most people lose sleep over. I mean, I'm not saying you don't lose sleep over physical, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual types of issues. You definitely lose sleep over those. But I would say when people have financial strain, they will be up all night thinking about it. Um, I've had experiences where I was up all night, times of my life where I was like broke and like up all night, like on those stupid YouTube channels that were saying like you can uh, make like $100 an hour or whatever. And I spent so much time losing sleep watching those till like 2, 3 in the morning, just hoping I would find something and like going online and making all these things. And none of it ever worked, but I spent time doing that. I spent a lot of time trying to make these things work, not knowing then that that wasn't the answer. Not knowing then that it's probably easier to just go do Uber Eats. Not knowing then that you can have like gigs that you do that pay out a certain day of the month. Um, and worrying about, okay, how am I going to pay for this? Where am I going to get this? Am I going to go to a food bank to go get food? Am I going to ask for my rent to be paid late? Um, like I try not to be irresponsible with money, but there were some times where I would say my, what I was going through, like mentally and emotionally, I would basically just go out and spend money partying and like doing things to take my mind off of stuff. And that costed me money. And I would like take out debt to do it. Not this didn't last long because I was like, I cannot sustain this. But, you know, I reached a point once where I was like, I am never borrowing money from anything or anyone ever again. And that was like the last straw where I was like, dude, I'm working full time. There's no reason why I should be in this situation. Um, but okay, so number 7 through 12. The first one is I live within my means and take responsibility for my financial decisions. Number 8, my spending and saving habits reflect my values and beliefs. Number 9, I actively plan for periods in my life when I may not have income. Number 10, I pay bills on time and positively manage credit. Number 11, I balance present day spending with saving for the future. Number 12, I have similar financial beliefs and practices to those with whom I am close. So let's break some of this stuff down. Let's break some of it down. So for number 7, where it says, I live within my means and take responsibility for my financial decisions, that, I think, that second part of the sentence, take responsibility for my financial decisions, is probably one of the harder things for people to start doing when their finances are all out of whack and they're like, I need to get this under control. Like usually, I mean, let's be honest. Usually when we try to get our finances under control, usually it's because something's coming due and we're like, I know I'm running short. I'm probably running short. Like I've talked about this before, how in the past I didn't even want to check my bank. I was like, I'm just gonna roll through and like have fun, and then oh, rent's gonna be coming due in about a week, so maybe I should check and see how much money I have, and I'll worry about it like every month. I'll worry about it the week before it's due. You know, I'll figure it out. Like at that point, my credit was so good, I could take out loans, I could get more credit. It wasn't like an issue for me. Like I was just like, if I need more money, I'll just go over here and go get more money. Like it wasn't like an issue. So, well, it was an issue, but I didn't identify it as an issue. Now this was a short time period, luckily, and I wasn't working with so much money that it wasn't something that like $1,000 to $2,000 could just like wipe out all the debt issues, and then I was kind of squared away. So at least it was like, okay, if I get a bonus or like if I get some extra money somewhere during the holidays or something, like usually I can wipe it all out. And so usually that was the issue for me, which is why it was so unmanageable. And I can take responsibility for it now, but at that time I was not um, even thinking along the lines of taking responsibility. At that time I was thinking of, you know, how am I gonna de-stress? How am I gonna, have fun? The free time that I have, how am I gonna have a good time? Like that was more of my concern. Like how am I gonna avoid sitting around thinking about, you know, um, all the things that I had going on kind of more internally, or, you know, having a job experience that just really wasn't a good fit, that I'd kind of opted into and felt kind of like, in a way, kind of pressure to kind of like keep going with it and see if I could level up from there. But for me, once all the cards weren't falling where they needed to fall, it's like I'm literally working at a job that's stressing me and straining me too much. I don't have any way to like truly de-stress from this other than like going into party mode, which is expensive. And sitting at home instead of going out was not like fun for me. I was like, this isn't fun. Like why am I working if I'm just gonna like sit home? Like I had like, people I lived with that I didn't want to live with, and what am I just gonna sit in my room all day? And like I made it so there was nothing to do in my room so that I'd want to go out. And so it was like, you know, I didn't really have much motivation to stay home, Like I did go hiking and go to the gym and stuff like that, but you know, I was like, man, I have like zero desire to really stay at the house. So I wasn't living within my means though, and I wasn't taking responsibility. Um and it took me a while to kind of take responsibility. Like I think one day what I did was I sat down, I wrote down all of my um not all, but maybe I wrote down, okay, how much do I need for gas? Calculate, like, okay, if this car gets this many miles per gallon, and you know, I I need to go to and from work for this many miles, how much is it going to take me per day to get to and from work? Because work is a necessity. All the going out and Ubering and all that stuff wasn't a necessity. I was like, okay, like at the time, maybe it took me $8 a day, so we call that like $40 a week, and that was like rounding. I'm rounding so that I have a couple dollars, in case I'm like just only paying that much. $40 a week, if I don't count, yeah. And at this point, I wasn't even like determining like how much am I actually spending though, like how much am I actually spending on gas. I was just calculating, what do I actually need? What is like an actual need of mine? Like how much do I have to spend? How much is required for me to get to and from work every day? 40 bucks a week. Okay. If I do cook at home every meal, or maybe whatever I did for like food, you know, um, for calculating how much I needed for groceries and food. I think I did a calculation for how much it would cost if I went grocery shopping and got certain foods every day versus what if I just went to like the Japanese market or the deli and got like bento boxes or like pre-made stuff, or what if I just went out and ate like my certain fast food every day or whatever for dinner or whatever I was doing, and calculated that amount of money. And then my rent, how much is my rent? Um, those are all the things that I really needed to calculate because those were the necessities. How much does all that cost? I don't have that number in front of me right now. This was like years ago. And so everything was less than it would have been now. But I calculated that. I'm telling you the process I used to help myself. I calculated that, and I saw how low that number was per week because I would get paid every 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, well, say if I get, I don't even know how much I was making at that point. Let's say if I was getting like, say I was bringing in, um, after all the deductions and everything, what was supposed to hit my account was $1,000. Let's say it was $1,000. That means every week I'd have $500 that I could spend. And if I calculated out what I was going to spend in a 7 day period, you know, let's say for the month, $40 gas, for food, $200, for rent, let's call it 700. Um, um, that's about 950 a month. That means I should have about $1,000, a little over $1,000 left every month. If it wasn't for all the money that was being taken out from loans and credit and all that automatically, let's say I had like 1,000, 1,100 dollars. I should have $1,100 every month after I pay my necessities. That means that I have over $1,100 of stuff coming out that I don't need. Um, when I saw that number, and I don't know if that was the number, but when I saw that number, I was like, that's ridiculous for how hard I work and how stressed I am because I'm working so hard. $1,100, my stress levels are costing me $1,100. You know, I don't cook food at home because the roommates stress me out, and I'm already so stressed that it's like I don't want to be cooking while I have these people talking to me, or like having to interact with people when I really don't have the social energy to do it, but then they kind of corner you in the kitchen while you're cooking because they're lonely, and it's like, well, now I got to stay and talk to these people, or they get like offended if I put in my earbuds. It's like, dude, like grow up, I have the right to not talk to people if I don't want to talk to them. But they just weren't like sensitive to the fact that like maybe I just don't want to talk to you, Like I talk to people all day long. Maybe I don't want to talk to you. Just because we live in the same house does not mean that I want to talk, you know. Especially like people unloading things on me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to like cook my burger or whatever. Like I really wanted to be left alone, and so that made it so I didn't cook, you know. So I would buy fast food, and that wasn't good for my health. Like it wasn't good for my health at all. Like in the past, I'd say for me, in the past 6 months, I've started eating fast food maybe once a week, maybe twice some weeks, but once a week on average. Um, and I've probably dropped about, um, I want to say, uh, I don't know. Let me see. I gotta look at it. I gotta look at it. But I can't do math in my head right now. I'm like, what the heck was that? I just dropped something. I'm sure I just dropped something. I just don't know what it was. Um, so let me look to see. If I look at June, I've been writing down my weights for a long time. Like the end of June to now. So like, give or take a couple pounds. We'll call it like 9 pounds or so. 9 pounds. Just from stopping eating fast food or not eating it as much. So, you know, it's financially super pricey. Fast food nowadays, guys, in case you haven't noticed, it costs a fortune. Um, you get a combo at McDonald's, you're paying over $10 for that crap food. Like I talk about it all the time. In and Out costs less than McDonald's if you don't get the drink, and it's probably better for you. Like I don't really even know, but and the lines aren't that much shorter. In and Out's line moves so fast when you're actually in it. It's not that much longer than the McDonald's line. Like it moves, you know. I've been in line longer at McDonald's on occasions than I have been at In and Out. In and Out's pretty efficient. It's just popular, but it's a good bang for your buck, you know. Um, but anyways, um, let's move on to the number one, number eight, the next one, number eight. Um, yeah, so those are examples: living within my means and taking responsibility. Like once I saw that number that was like $1,100 or whatever, I was like, okay, like I can't blame all these other things. I'll say things like, oh, like the gas prices are so expensive. But wait, I only really need to spend $40 a month on gas at that time. You know, it was like that's all I really need to spend is $40. And if I'm getting like $2,000 a month, $40 out of that is not much. I really only need to spend $200 on groceries. And if I'm spending like $20 a day on like takeout, this is like back then, you know, so maybe it was $20. I don't have the numbers in front of me. If I'm spending $20 a day on takeout, um, how much is that per month? Like $600? That's $600 versus $200. If I'm going out every weekend and spending $50, $60 every weekend, you know, that's an added, I don't know, we'll call it $200 or so. It was probably more than that. It was probably close to like $100 a week I was going out because I was going out more than once a week. So we'll call it somewhere between 200 to like $400 a month going out, and then whatever debt comes out of my account every month, you know, it's like the numbers just don't add up. It's like, okay, like you're spending way more than you're making, you know, at a certain point. But it's like until I saw the number, I didn't really want to change it. And until I was kind of in a position where I felt like maybe like humiliation at it, at having to like go borrow money when I'm like I literally should have money. And I went into this like loan center once. I don't remember what it was, but like I went frequently, like frequently enough that like people recognized me. And I remember going in there and one of the people asked me, you know, what do you do for work? Like where do you work? And I remember telling them where I work because they were like, oh yeah, I'm looking for work, like another job. And so they were asking me where I worked, and I told them where I worked. And you know, because you have to give your information anyways. And I told how much, you know, I was getting paid and stuff. And it was like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't make bad money. Like at that time in my life, I was like, I'm really not making bad money. Like it wasn't like great, but like I wasn't making that bad of money. Like I was saving for my retirement. I had, you know, healthcare and taxes being taken out. So my take home really was about 2,000, but I was probably making about 3,000 or so. I don't know. I can't really do the math right now, but I was making quite a few $100s more than what I was actually was hitting my bank. And then less was hitting my bank because the chunk would get taken out. Like it gets eaten up like before you even wake up and check your bank the day that it's due. You know how those loans work. And so they just take the money. I would never even see the money. And I wouldn't even think about it. I'd just go get another loan or like renew it or whatever. And I'm like, okay, just replenish it back in my bank. And I think I would just wait till I got like a bonus or like about $1,000 or so, and I'd have a good period of time where I'd like wipe out all the debt and then just chill. But I don't think I ever put two and two together that the stressful lifestyle I was living, that I was dealing with at work every day, was the main contributing factor to me making all these stupid decisions. Um, because I wasn't. taught about this. I wasn't taught about like how finances and stress are related to each other. Um, I mean, nowadays it's really hard to blame it on like a stressful lifestyle. It's like everybody's life is stressful because everything costs more and nobody can afford it. So you have to work more, and that's stressful. It doesn't even matter nowadays. People aren't even trying to get like passion jobs that they're like passionate about. They're like, whatever, just pay the bills. It doesn't even matter how many jobs people have to have nowadays. They're not even focused on how many jobs. They're just focused on, does it even out? And people are taking out more and more debt, and it's kind of, it doesn't seem like the I'm almost not even talking about the same situation because things have changed so much. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Is like things are so different now compared to the time period that I'm talking about, which was probably closer to like 2017, 2015, like around there. Like this is so much far later. Things have changed so much, and so I'm comparing like an old school mentality of like when I did have to just adjust versus now where people are like, I need to literally get another job. There's no adjust my spending because people might be at the point where you've literally just only gotten to where you need to be, uh, to where your expenses need to be. But I just want to say, if you do the same thing that I was doing, then you got to take responsibility for that because we can blame the economy and be like, the economy sucks. It does. Everything costs more, but sometimes we didn't need to order that food delivery. You know, Sometimes we didn't need to take that Uber or Lyft. We could have maybe not drank that night and driven ourselves and parked on the street and not paid parking and eaten dinner at home before we went out to meet friends and order like fries for like $7 or $8 instead of spending $30 round trip on Uber and another $40 when you get there on a meal and a couple drinks. That's $70 versus like $10. You know what I mean? It's like, that's for real, guys. Like that's what it means when it says taking responsibility. Like, yeah, we can blame the economy, but you can still go out and dude, guys, I've been known for being like a frugal, cheap, like look weird and do things your own weird way. If you want to drink that bad, go to the liquor store, get those little $2 little shots, put them in your freaking pocket, walk into the place that you're going to, order like an iced tea or a soda, and just dump the little thing in your soda. Cheaper. It's gonna be way cheaper than buying booze out at a bar. And you can still drink with your friends. You still have alcohol. Your alcohol costs you $5. Go to a bar and try outside of happy hour and try to get a drink for $5. It's almost not gonna happen nowadays. Almost. Or only meet your friends at happy hour. I have friends that are totally chill with that they're like, hey, happy hour ends at 6. Let's go before happy hour. Like, hell yeah, let's go. And just order like $6 appetizers and like $4 drinks. You know, you get more bang for your buck. Like, maybe you're not out at 10 o'clock at night with all the party, but you still get to hang out and you still pay way less. Like, there are ways to live cheaper and still have a lot of fun. It's not about the amount of money you spend, because sometimes that amount of money you spend puts you in more stress. Once you get home, you're like, oh dang, why did I spend all that money? I went above my budget. And it's like, you can give yourself a $20 budget if you really have to go out and just not overdo it. I'm not saying drink and drive, but if that becomes an issue, maybe you have a problem with your substances. I mean, I'm being real. Like, if you can't decide between like how much substances to have and make a safe decision, you probably have an issue with your substances. It might be coming from stress, it might be coming from some social thing or some emotional thing. That's fine. But if you find yourself drinking and driving, or drinking and driving under the influence, or even like, smoking pot or taking edibles and driving under the influence, you have an issue with substances. People don't talk about it if you don't get caught and get a DUI, or if you don't run into something or whatever. But you do have a problem if you cannot afford, if you're doing it because you can't afford the Uber, but you still want to go out and drink, and then you still want to drive, you have an issue. I have to tell you that. It's something that people don't say, because it's like people get away with it so much, but you have an issue. You have an issue. And, um, it's, you know, 9 times out of 10, people are going to do it and probably not get caught and not have an accident. Nothing's going to happen. And they're close to home. They're going to drive home. It's going to be fine. Or they might be under the limit or whatever. But it's like, if that's the decision you're making, where you're like, I can save money on this Uber because I don't really want to spend it because it's over my budget, and then get inebriated and drive, either pregame at home and drive, or go out with friends and drink and drive home, you have an issue. You do have an issue. You might not have some like major diagnostic category kind of issue, but there's at least a mild issue there that you got to think about that. And that's another way of taking responsibility. Like, if you see yourself making decisions that aren't legal or aren't good because of a financial thing, because you can't afford it, but you want to do it, and you don't have that impulse control to be like, like, this is a bad decision, and never make those decisions while you're drinking or while you've already been drinking. You make those decisions of how much you're going to spend, how you're going to get to and from, how much you're going to drink. You make those decisions before you leave, because trust me, if you're already out, once you're going and you're going hard, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, this is a bad decision. You're going to be like, no, I'm buying another one. A pitcher for the table. You're not really going to be thinking about it. um I'm getting long-winded. So 8, my spending and saving habits reflect my values and beliefs. Um, this is a weird one. I would say people have different beliefs about their spending and saving. Um, like, I'm not trying to be like judgmental about people spending and saving. Uh, I would say kind of what comes to mind first is, if say for example, this is an example, an idea to play with. I'm not saying people have to even like take this into account, because it's your own thing. But say if you are a church going person and your church teaches you to tithe 10%, and you don't tithe 10% because you'd rather spend the money elsewhere, but it's part of your beliefs. I'm just saying, for people who believe this, that you should tithe, and then you find yourself not able to tithe, either it's like a mental reason, or like an actual literal, like, my bank account's not going to add up if I give 10%. That's what it means, kind of, by like beliefs. It's like, if I believe I should be doing this, but I don't do it because, you know, of what things look like. If I believe I should be doing it and I don't do it, um, I'm not talking specifically about tithing in church and stuff. I'm just saying, if that's generally what they're talking about here. If I believe I should be doing it, but I'm not actually doing it, then that's not necessarily uh, the best way to go about that. Um, what else? So, saving is a hard one for a lot of people. Um, I've talked about this a little bit though, even recently. It's like, when you don't want to pay for something, just try $10 a day. I mean, it's not glamorous, but if you do that $10 a day, saving $10 a day, just only on weekdays, just put $10 aside. You're by every 2 weeks you're gonna have $100. Every month you're gonna have $200 set aside. It's not a lot of money, but it's better than zero. And most people can figure out $10 a day on a weekday. You know, um, that's maybe 1 to 2 Uber Eats deliveries. So, if you have like Uber Eats or one of those food delivery apps and you're just like, and you're just gonna go home and like watch TV, why not just go do 2 deliveries real quick, get $10 and save it? It's like, it's not really that much, extra work. If you're really serious about the saving part, you can save, most people can save $10 a day. Now, the circumstances I'm not talking about here are people who are in like extreme poverty, can't eat, can't pay for the basic stuff, can't pay for your rent, can't pay for your food, can't pay for your, transportation to get to and from work. If you have necessary medications that you have to have, for your health, and you can't go without them without it being a risk, those are what I'm not talking about. I'm not saying that I'm leaving people out of this conversation. I'm just saying if that's your situation, you have to get to a place where you can afford that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about, extreme situations, like when I'm talking about like responsibility and accountability, I'm not talking about people whose literal income does not add up to what they need to survive. And I know that's a real issue. Um, it's happening more and more for a lot of people, unfortunately, and something has to change, But I do think for a lot of people, I don't know the percentage, but I do think for a lot of people, it's more of a mindset and behavioral thing. Just people don't want to own up to it. It's more comfortable and popular to blame the economy than look at the bank and be like, literally, I could have $1,100 every month if I just stuck to this budget. Literally, I could save $200 a month if I just did $10 a day on weekdays. It's like simple stuff like that where you can look at it and be like, okay, the money is there within reach. You know, I just have to stick to a plan, you know. Um, but saving can be hard. And your own values and beliefs on it, your own values and beliefs about debt. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that most people, at least at some point in time in their life, don't devalue debt. I'd say Americans don't tend to devalue debt, you know. Um, most people I talk to, friends, family, they don't devalue debt. I don't see or hear of a lot of family members who uh, don't value debt. Like I have some family members who stay away from debt almost at all costs. They'll pay for everything in cash. They don't even deal with getting in debt. They almost will never get in debt. And I have some family members that are constantly in debt, um, borrowing money from all over the place. Um, you know, and I know people that are in sticky situations where it's like they just don't do what they can't afford for the most part. But I don't think that a lot of people value not having debt. Like, you can challenge your own self on that. Um, I'd say for myself, I value not asking other people for money. But when it comes to like these big corporations, like credit corporations and loan companies and stuff, do I really value not borrowing from them? Do I value avoiding that and putting in extra work and extra hours instead of just making a simple phone call or filling out a simple application? Do I value that more? I cannot say that I do, depending on why I'm getting the money. If it's for something that I really want to do, usually like a concert or some kind of trip or something, then no, I don't devalue debt. And I think that is a problem. I think that's something I am working on where I'm like, I've literally actively learned ways where I can just make money. Have a certain amount of money and work doing deliveries, just all of a sudden have more money. Like, I'm not saying like you don't spend money, because you definitely spend gas, and I got a guzzler, so um I definitely do spend money, but you know, um it's not like that bad, you know what I mean? Um but yeah, I mean, I've taken out debt to do stuff that wasn't that important. I could have said no. I could have avoided doing it. Um Number 9, I actively plan for periods in my life when I may not have income. Now, what does that look like? Um, I'm not saying people should take from their retirement, but having money in a place that you can't get to it fast, to me, is the best strategy. Um, for things like saving for retirement. I'm with a retirement plan company that, if I want my money, I can't get it tomorrow. There's like a whole process. I have to call in, I have to request the application, I have to fill it out, I have to submit it, and then, you know, there's all these waivers and things. And then they'll send me the money within, I think, if it's by mail, it's going to be 10 business days. If it's direct deposit, I think it's within the few days. I think it's within a few days. But it's not right away. And it takes at least, I want to call it 3 to 4 days, business days, to get it done. And just that amount of like barrier makes it so I don't touch the money. Plus, if I take the money out, I lose like 20 something percent on it. It's like ridiculous. And have to pay taxes on it. So it's like you basically get penalized for using that money. And so to me, it's not worth using it, but I don't know. People might say otherwise. For them, it might be worth it. For me, it's not worth. For me, it's not worth using it. Um, but you know, where it says I actively plan for periods of my life when I may not have income. I don't know if most people do plan for that. Um, a lot of researchers say that most people don't have even 1 month of expenses covered. Like, for example, if I use the example that I used when I was renting a room for $700 and could have afforded, only 1,000, it could have made it off of $1,000 a month if I didn't have like a lot of extra stuff to pay for. $1,000 would have still given me some wiggle room, including rent back then. Um, uh, all those prices went up since then, but like I'm just talking about back then, when I was making about $18 an hour, um, before all the deductions. A big portion of that, probably about 7%, would be set aside for taxes. About 7% would be set aside for um, let me see, for retirement. Um, and I just never saw that money. Like, it just went where it was gonna go, and that was that. Like, and for like my health insurance. Um, so I was losing money. It was just coming out of my check before it even hit my bank, and I just never counted on seeing that money. You know, unless I went in and adjusted something, that was how it was going to be. So I just kind of kept it like that. To me, that was the easiest way to save money for when I wouldn't have income. Um, because I mean, what else are you gonna do, you know? So I basically saved the money that way. Um, Having money stored in a place that was hard enough to get that I knew I wasn't gonna be just dipping in it ever. You know, I probably dipped into it like maybe 3 times total in my life. Um, I think some of it was to pay off some of those past like bad decision debts from before that I had talked about. I think twice that's what I did it for. And then the other time was for when I was going to have no income. And that money was just there. It was plenty of money, plenty of money. Probably enough to live off of for like almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Um, and that honestly was something that kind of saved me. Because it gives you the opportunity to, if you want to leave your job, if you have to leave your job. I'm not saying it's the best idea to lose a job to leave a job with no plan, but if you really just can't deal anymore, you know that you have that money sitting there. And for me, mentally, I think that was most of the reason why I was able to push so hard, working myself too much. I'm not saying that part was good, but working myself through too much stress. Um, because I knew I had money that I could live off of for like a year and a half. Because I knew that, it didn't make it so bad of a situation where I was like, I gotta do this job and I don't like it, and the boss is weird, and all these things are going wrong, and it's just too taxing on me. And I was like, but I can quit at any time, just having that in the back of my head, I can quit at any time. And it took me maybe 5 years to build that money, maybe 4 to 5 years to build that money. Um, but I never saw the money, is what I'm trying to say. It just went into my bank automatically. I never saw the money. So that's kind of what I would recommend, is just put the money somewhere where you're never going to see it. And if you really need it, it'll be there. But if you just kind of want it because you want to like go on a trip or go travel or do something like that, the money's really not going to be there. You're going to have to really make an effort to go out of your way to get the money. Um, and there's limits on it, and there's penalties on it, and different reasons why you're going to be more and more likely not to touch that money. Um, that's kind of what worked for me. Um, let's see. 10. I pay bills on time and positively manage credit. Uh, that for me has become easier as I've tried to decrease expenses. I would say one place that I'm not good at decreasing expenses is subscriptions. Literally this weekend I almost paid like $40. I renewed my $18.99 YouTube subscription that expired December 15th, and I added my Reason Studios subscription on December 16th for $19.99 a month. Um, I've got a gym membership that I pay for on about the 24th of every month. I've got car insurance that I pay for on about the 7th of every month. Um, so that's already 40 plus about 50. That's already like $90 or so a month of just those four things. I don't always pay for Reason Studios every month. That's something that I was like, okay, I'm actively working on projects, and so I'll pay for it now. But I don't usually pay for that, so it took things down to like $70 a month. But yeah, I've been over on that when I've paid for more subscriptions. I've probably been over like $150 just for like monthly expenses and subscriptions to things. Like, I wouldn't call car insurance a subscription, but I put it in that list. And then I wouldn't call a gym membership necessarily a subscription, but I put it in there too because they're like monthly. So right now I really only have $90 worth of stuff that I have to pay for, about $90, but I'm telling you guys, it adds up. Um, so yeah, um, really like doing the math, getting good at doing the math is really one thing that's also gonna help a lot. Um, it's pay your bills on time, like try not to have bills if you can't pay for them. I mean, it's easier said than done, I know, but it's like certain stuff isn't a necessity. Like to me, if I have to cut the gym, I have to cut the gym. If I have to cut YouTube Premium, if I have to cut Reason Studios, I have to, and that would buy me like what? I can't do math right now. Like $40 plus maybe another 25, about $65 that would buy me. I mean, I have to pay for car insurance. I can't not pay car insurance, but you know, if I could get an extra $65 to go towards other stuff if I needed it, I could cancel that stuff. It would hurt to have to deal with all the stupid ads, to have to not be able to work on my music, to have to find alternatives and like work out at home or at the beach or like do workouts in my bedroom that aren't as interesting as the gym, you know, but it's an expense. It's an expense. It really is. So if I can't pay my bills on time or manage my credit and then I still have stuff coming out that's not an absolute necessity, like I call this stuff necessity for my like creativity, for my wellness, things like that. And it is kind of a necessity. Like I don't think it would be wise to cancel my gym membership, but I could cancel YouTube. Like I don't want to. It would drive me. I'd basically just have to avoid YouTube because I can't deal with the ads. Um 11, I balance present day spending with saving for my future. That's pretty tied in to number 9 and number 8. Um, I think if there's something to save for, it's easier to kind of get those numbers and decide, okay, I have X months, 4 or 5 months until I have to do this trip. If I divide it by 5 weekdays, for 4 times a month, so that's 20 days worth of money per month, and I have 4 months, that's 80 days. In the next 80 days, how can I make that money? You know, how much do I need to set aside per 80 days? If I set aside $10 a day, just only on weekdays alone, that's $800. I mean, that's not hard to do for a lot of people. For some people, yeah, it's definitely hard, but for a lot of people, $10 a day is a manageable amount. It's a small amount that you could just withdraw from one place, put it in another account, don't touch it. That's very possible to manage. $10 a day on weekdays only for 4 months. That's $800. If you're going to take a trip and you need $800, $500, $600, that's one way to do it. $10 a day for 80 days. If you could save $20 a day for 80 days, you'd have $1,600. I mean, I don't know how hard that really is. You might have to give up some other stuff, but if you're saving for your future, that's one way to do it. And if you're trying to balance present day spending, if you just take a small amount, a lot of times that's easier for people to calculate. I have similar financial beliefs and practices as those with whom I am close. That can be a hard one because if you're around heavy spenders that like to spend on expensive things, like I've got a friend that likes to go up to Mammoth like once a month or once every other month or whatever. That's super expensive for me. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna do that. I'd rather get my little mountain high pass and just go locally. Like maybe it's not like extravagant or anything, but I don't really do the whole extravagance thing, you know? Like, I stay at basic hotels, I keep it basic. I don't need some luxurious hotel with like the best, you know, suite with the best views and the best, delivery or whatever, food delivery, food, you know, catering and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't need all that. Like, I don't travel to places to stay at the hotel anyways. And so I don't see why I should spend more than like just a little bit per day. I'm not spending $200 a night on a hotel. Like, I'm not going to be there anyways. Usually, if I'm traveling somewhere, I'm not going to be there. I care about it being safe and quiet. You know, that's mostly what I care about. And not in the middle of nowhere in case I want to walk somewhere or order food delivery. Um, but I don't know, guys. Like, if you know people who spend a whole lot, it's hard. You know, you go out with people and they just want to blow money on stuff. Like, I've been out with people who, they just buy a bunch of stuff that I hardly buy stuff when I go out, but I've been with people that, we go to the mall, they'll buy like a hat here and a shirt there and, you know, go to like the candy store and buy some candy and then go over here and like we came here to see a movie and you went shopping for clothes and got a bunch of snacks and like all this kind of stuff. It's like we came here for dinner and a movie and you spent an extra like $300 along the way. It's like like for me it's like that's weird. But I don't really know, man. Like it's really um it's really just, you know, it's kind of hard to see like, how people can like easily get out of it. I don't know if there's an easy method. A cold turkey method is possible, but it's not easy. Like I think the easiest thing is to basically like know what's going on for yourself and really deal with that. Um, because if you don't deal with whatever is causing the behaviors of the spending, if it's stress levels, if it's, just like, you know, insecurities, different kind of, levels of unhappiness about things, all those kind of things, cause you to spend money that you don't need to spend, you know. Um, and again, I'm not talking necessarily about the circumstances where people don't have, like there are literally circumstances where people, like I mentioned before, can't afford anything, like even the basics. If you can't afford the basics, then this conversation isn't the same conversation for you. I'm not saying that I'm not talking to those people because even people in those scenarios can learn about what they can do once their finances are in control. And, challenge yourself on how much money you make. I had to do that. I was like, let me get out of this situation where I'm barely making any money and super stressed and I'm not even doing what I want to do anymore. Like I lost interest in doing that kind of work. Like, because I wasn't getting that much out of it. Like I got a lot of intellectual stuff out of it and like the social atmosphere, but as my work environment changed and all my friends left and you know during the lockdowns we weren't even able to really communicate as much at work, and once everything kind of shifted and then I started working remotely and I was like this just isn't fun anymore, like there were certain parts that kind of made it worth it for me, and then after a while I was like this isn't even worth it if my friends aren't working here, if I'm isolated, stuck in my room, like talking to these people, like even when the workload became a little bit less, I still wasn't into it. Yeah, I was good at it. It was easy for me as far as being able to do the job, but it just took too much of a toll. I stopped going to the gym, I stopped cooking or eating healthy, gained a bunch of weight, just wasn't able to focus. I was constantly foggy, not motivated, and having to force yourself to do that for 8 hours a day and you're not even getting what you want. Like, I wasn't able to afford a $2,000 apartment because that's how San Diego is. I wasn't able to afford to live by myself. I had to stay living with these crazy roommates. I had to stick to doing stuff that I didn't really want to do outside in my life because I was beholden to this job, and it took all my energy. I didn't even have energy for myself. And so, I learned a lot. It was worth it in a lot of ways. It bought me the opportunity to get to where I am now because I had so much put aside and so much saved because I lived cheap because I was living with people. So if I had moved out when I wanted to move out and was paying $1,500 rent instead of $700 something rent, $800 something rent, I wouldn't have been able to afford, you know, to take a break, to switch careers, to do all this other training and stuff. Um, like I still work, but I work on the side of that, you know. So I don't know. A lot of these are my opinions. I'm not like some kind of financial guru or anything, but I want people to come into the new year with a lot of this stuff kind of like fleshed out. Even if you're not actively working on it, don't avoid thinking about it. Don't avoid learning about it. Just let the information sink in, like listen to things that you can understand. Dave Ramsey, Graham Stephan. Listen to some of these conversations. Just listen to other people talking about their debt. Listen to Caleb Hammer, talking to people about their debt, and just listen to people talking about debt and finances. And I'm not saying if it stresses you out and it's negative, maybe don't. But you know, if you can tolerate those conversations and you're not ready to work on any of it, it's fine. Just listen to it. Listen to people talking about it. And one day you'll literally just wake up and be like, I want to be closer to that scenario. I want to be able to say I'm debt free. I want to be able to, start paying off a card. I want to be able to, have extra money to do stuff. I want to be able to save even $10 a day and have that $800 at the end of 4 months, or $20 a day and $1,600 in 4 months. Like, what could you do with that money? Like, you could do a lot with that money. And, you don't want to sit on things too long, you know? You could start, saving now, you know? You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait at all. So, I don't know. That's, for people who say that they can't save, if you've got like an inkling of energy and you could just do like one or two deliveries a day, you just save that money. Just only save that money. You'd still be in an okay position with your savings. I don't know. Everyone needs a different amount of money, but I mean, you could still say that you're saving. So just think about it. Just think about it. And that's all for now.